Hey everyone, I'm Michelle Cooper, owner of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping Services, and this is the weekly installment of Say Yes to the Mess, getting your entrepreneurship journey cleaned up. And I am so thrilled to be joined by my friend, former client, Matthew Peacock. Hey, Matt.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So today we're going to be talking about the pitfalls of entrepreneurship. And you and I met at a BNI chapter, I think it was, so many years ago, right?
Right.
Yeah. And BNI was such a valuable tool for myself to build my business. But one of the most amazing things that came out of BNI was the friendships that I created. So I'm incredibly grateful to have you in my life as a friend, and that I can learn from you. What's that?
That's likewise, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now.
Okay, so I am a recovering IT guy. So I started out my career and jumped straight into the world of computers and spent many years working for corporate IT departments, setting up departments and systems, and I ended up emigrating to Canada way back in 2001. I was offered a job out here, which was great, gave me something to land and get started with. And then after a couple of years, I started feeling sort of the idea of working for myself and doing a few bits and pieces. And I tried a couple of things and then ended up back in IT. And then around 2010, 2011, I finally got into the idea of, let's make this work again. And I started an IT business and grew it from there. And I haven't worked for anybody since, right?
Right? That's so good. So obviously we're talking about the pitfalls of entrepreneurship, right? At Alchemy, we specialize in helping people clean up the financial house of their business and get things all nice and tidy. At what stage in your business journey did you realize that there was something going wrong and you needed some help?
If I'd have looked closely, it would have been relatively quickly after starting the business, but it actually took about 2 years for everything to kind of bubble to the surface. It was getting to the point where I was spending so much time doing the little niggly things, like I do all the work myself. We had a bookkeeper for payroll and taxes, but that was it. Sort of like just end of year. That was pretty much it. And so I was spending like these 7 hours every Sunday sat in QuickBooks trying to send out invoices, figuring out which PST bulletin applied to what I was trying to do. Just stuff like that, where it was just very much I was spending all this time doing stuff that wasn't what I actually signed up for, not what I wanted to do. So it became apparent. I mean, I was like just working my ass off trying to get it done. And then not being able to focus on building the business and actually making it successful. And then of course you get everything else that adds on to that. So end up with family life was suffering. Your home life. You can't come home and spend time with your wife because you've got to get work done so that you can do invoicing on Sunday so that you can start again on Monday. It was crazy, and there's no real operating information for me to understand what was going on.
And that experience is really common. Like I find I talk to hundreds and hundreds of business owners every year, and we get into business and we're doing all the things because when we start, we're basically creating a job for ourselves. We don't want to work for anybody else, but then all of the things ends up piling up and it becomes unmanageable, right? And the biggest effect is on our families, I think, our relationships.
That's right.
Yeah. So you took your, I like you call it, a disjointed technology service company. You took that from $75,000 in losses to a 30K profit in 18 months.
Yes, I did.
How did you do that?
Well, first I talked to Michelle, but the decision to actually find somebody and actually work with somebody was probably one of the biggest things for me mentally to get around. So when I started the company, I bootstrapped it. I did not want debt. I just wanted to build it. I wanted to make it myself. I wanted to grow something. And part of that mindset ended up being, why would I pay somebody to enter the invoices when I can do it? Why would I pay somebody to do this when I can do it? And that kind of compounded over the months and the years, to the point in which, because I was doing everything, that's really where the trouble started. And I had to get around that to say, no, I need to hire somebody. I need to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, and I can just outsource it, offload it, and give it to somebody else. So the biggest challenge was, the biggest thing was just basically offloading it to somebody else so that they could do that for me and be able to give me that information back as to where we needed to focus our time and our energy and what would give us the biggest bang for our buck, right? Um, I remember we went through a whole list. I think it was like a laundry list of things that we had to fix, and that was really disheartening, right? I spent like 2 years slaving off, like trying to build this business. I sit down in front of Michelle, and she says, "Okay, here's what's wrong with your business," and it's like a novel that I've got, like a big workbook I've got to start flicking through. So it was quite different. But having said that, it was good because that gave us direction. It gave us a focus and something to actually work on with measurable outcomes at the end of it. So that was a huge benefit to making that decision.
Yeah, I remember our initial conversation, and I actually, with your permission, I share that story a lot. How it was like we sat across from a table from each other, and you said, either you fix this, or I'm just gonna declare bankruptcy.
Yeah,
Like it's gonna
it
go.
was. I remember that was at Frankie's, right? Where I
Yeah, yeah,
sat eating bread and whatever it was. Yeah. That was a pretty dark time for me. It definitely, like, both business wise, but because it affects your personal life, the mental health aspect of it was very depressing.
yeah.
And especially when you come home and you see two kids and a wife, and I'm like, I've got to keep providing for you. This is not more pressure than I need.
Yeah, absolutely. And because I know your wife, I remember even her reaching out to me after we had been working together for about 6 months. And it's one of the best text messages I've ever received, where she was like, "Thank you for giving me my husband back."
Mm, yeah,
And I shared that with my team. I said, "That's the impact that we make.
yeah,
This person got their husband back. And that matters. Like that counts in the world, right?" I love your story because it completely mirrors Mike Michalowicz's story from Profit First, and I
mm,
love Mike and the book and the methodology. I've seen it change businesses um, completely around, just like your own, time and time again. So, if somebody's wondering, like, what do I do? Well, you can definitely talk to Matt or me, but at the very beginning, go get that book,
absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
right? Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
in fact, I would probably say, like, as fantastic as you are, Michelle, I would probably credit that the Profit First methodology as being
Mhm.
the thing that really, for me, really turned it around, because it made such big changes to the way that we did things. Um,
Yeah,
and it also gave me so much clarity and vision into the financial state of the company without having to go diving into QuickBooks or looking at profit statements and things like that. That I can look at them and it's great. Okay, that's a snapshot of the company, like yesterday.
right,
Where the Profit First method, just it was like, how much money do I have right now? Okay, I need to do invoicing.
right. Totally, totally. And it's just so valuable. And I like that you say that because like we basically stepped in and facilitated the implementation of the Profit First methodology. And a lot of people will, they'll reach out to us and say, "Oh, I heard you're a Profit First firm. Why should I bother? Like, why can't I just do it myself?" I'm like,
Mm.
"Well, because you
It
would have
doesn't work.
already done it."
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
So you need the accountability. So tell us a little bit about some of the changes that you made to help you turn your nightmare to your dream.
Right. So obviously, Profit First was a huge component of that to get us on track. But once we started looking at the key components of the company, the first thing we did was expenses, right? We started looking at, okay, well, let's talk about the expenses that we have. And as we started diving into those, we realized, it's not sustainable. We were spending, I think, nearly $3,500 a month just on like software subscriptions and things like that. So you see these little tools and things online. Oh, that's a really cool tool. It'll help me do this. Well, does it, right? And if you sign up for and if you use it, great. If it saves you the time that you'd normally be doing that same task, then yes, it makes sense. But a lot of these things, we had subscriptions to these stupid little software things online that really weren't helping the company, helping the business, or even delivering any kind of value to the customer at the end of the day.
Right.
And so why were we using them? Why were we still paying for them? One of the tools we have, our biggest tool, which is our kind of ticket management software and invoicing system. It was kind of our little ERP system. That tool was costing us just close to $2,000 a month. And we used maybe 20% of it at tops. So what I did is I spent some time looking for an alternate tool that was easier to use and would cost us a lot less money. And while it's true that you get what you pay for, I think we switched to an alternate platform, which took us from 2,000 down to, I want to say it's like $350. So it was like nearly $1,700 worth of savings every month just by switching that one tool. And the team, the employees that we had just were thrilled because the software was so much easier to use. So they got more out of it. The clients got more out of it because they had better information. And so at the end of the day, that was just an easy win to jump straight in. So definitely cutting the expenses and looking at it from that side. And then I'd say the other biggest change that we did was we changed our terms with our clients. Because as we're looking at what we do as a tech support business, we would finish a tech support ticket and then we would wait until the end of the month to bill it, and then we would give the clients net 30. So if we were doing work on the second or third of the month, we weren't going to see any of that revenue for like 60 days or that cash flow for 60 days. And that was a huge impact to us because we've still got to pay bills in the meantime. So we switched all of the clients back to net zero and we invoiced on completion of the work. We had, I think out of 200 clients, we had 2 that pushed back. And we worked with them to fit within their accounts payable lifecycle. Other than that, I mean, that was a huge fix for us, was just changing the way that we invoiced our clients to improve our cash flow.
Yeah, and we started doing a credit card on file.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Which was huge, right? It was like ticket closed, charge the account.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was very hesitant about that to start with, because again, it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to pay this credit card company 3% of what I just did.
I remember
that. Yeah. But you know what? It makes sense because it removes a level of friction from the customer. So like, why would I make it hard for you to give me money? Just
right.
I'll pay the 3%, and we'll go from there.
Oh, that conversation, honestly, it's like it comes up time and time again where people are like, yeah, but it's 3%, Michelle. And I'm like, who gives a flying fling flang about 3%? Like, if your price point is make or break on 3%, there's something wrong with your pricing.
Yeah. That's
not
right.
processing it through a credit card. Right? Like, make it super easy for clients to give you money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So what were some of those amazing things that you were able to do when you started to focus on these changes?
Oh, these were brilliant. So,
right?
Oh yeah, and I think I remember when I sat down in your office and I said, "This is what's happening," and you were like thrilled. So, yeah, once we had everything, well, actually, let me back up. Let me qualify that this was not an easy change. Like, all these changes that we put into place were either problematic for me to get my head around and change my mentality, getting our team on board with all these changes, getting our clients signed up so they'd be happy with what we were doing. We did a lot of communication with everybody to say, this is what we're doing, this is the way we're going to do it. And we didn't really, we didn't take any pushback. It was, this is the way we're going to do it because we have to fix these problems. Once we'd done this, and we went the profit first method, so actually seeing the savings that we were making, and we started saving up for other stuff as well. So like about a year after we started doing these changes, I went to visit my parents in England, and I took a month off. So I left my business in the hands of the team, disappeared to the other side of the planet for a month. And
Right?
I was still available on email, but with the time difference, there was really nothing I could have done. And I learned two things. I learned, one, that I could do that, that the team were good enough for what they did, and two, that mentally I could make that change and move myself out of the customer's life, because the team were doing it. The team were handling it all. The customers didn't need to rely on me being in the same country. So I went to visit my parents. We went on a European trip. We went to Turkey. Last year, I took my wife on a 15-year anniversary. We went to the Caribbean. We spent 10 days on the island of Barbados, which was even better because I had no Wi-Fi at that point. And so, yeah, just being able to sit on the beach. And for the first few days, you get that withdrawal, right? You sat there and you're like, oh, I can't get online. I can't get my email. Should I go and find the business center and see if I can, well, no, because what's the best you're going to be able to do? So I, again, just hang up the phone, sit on the beach, sit in a hammock.
So good.
Yeah, things like that where I can do the thing.
I had the money to do
Yes,
it, right?
yes, I had the money to do it, and I was able to do these things that I wanted to do, and with a reason that I started the business in the first place, right? So
Yeah, so important. And so really, along with Profit First, again, Mike Michalowicz has an amazing book called Run Like Clockwork, and you basically clockwork yourself out of your business so that you could go on these
that's right.
holidays, and
Yeah,
and that's the whole point, right? Like we forget why we created the business, to have the freedom to do the things we want to do.
that's right.
So, what else? Anything else you got to do?
Yes, I can now sleep a full night.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the most important.
Not waking up at 3 a.m. because you're in a panic because it's payroll the next day. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. So good. Thank you so much for sharing like a really personal story, I think that there's this a certain aspect or like facade out there about entrepreneurship, and it's like private planes and champagne and all that jazz, right? And the reality is often not that. um, and the reality is that so many entrepreneurs are working themselves into the hospital,
Mm,
um, into the grave, sometimes into divorce and addiction problems, and like serious mental health issues. And it's that there's an entrepreneur drive, that keeps us going in those really kind of dysfunctional situations, right? And so I think hearing the reality from someone, and that you turned it around, right?
yeah.
Like you recognized where you were and you turned it around.
That's it. And I think one of the struggles that I know I face as an entrepreneur is, who do you talk to?
Right.
Because you can't talk to your family. Well, you can, but they don't quite understand. Your employees, you can't talk to them because their view of the business and your view are completely different. Even though you're working towards the same goal, their understanding of why decisions are made doesn't always jive with what needs to be done for the business. And yeah, and that concept that everybody you talk to, you're self-employed. Oh, great! The biggest thing for me is that, oh, you have your own business. Oh, just write it off. No, somebody's still got to pay for that, right? So
Right.
that whole misunderstanding of what you do as a business owner, and I get then the flip side where, as a business owner, you feel obligated when people say, "How are things?" They're great. They're not. But but I
Right.
got to tell you that they're great, so that that's the expected response. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think for me, finding like a peer group or another entrepreneur who you can talk to, even just to bounce ideas off, or just to vent and say, "I'm having a really crappy day. This is what happened," and maybe get some insight from somebody else. Yeah, that really helps.
Yeah, like we had a few of us, right, that we used to kind of get together, meet
Yeah,
every other Friday and, have a drink or something to eat and just like talk about like, okay, here's what's really going on for me. And and uh and I think that that's so, so valuable, right? Because you're right. Like I think a lot of times, I know for me personally, I never wanted to tell my husband the truth or like the reality. Like I didn't like necessarily lie to him, but I didn't share with him the reality of
yeah.
what was going on in my business, right? Because I didn't want him to worry.
Yes, you don't want to burden them with that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I didn't want him to freak out or panic or anything. It was like, "Oh, I'll keep all the plates spinning and, and it'll all work out, and I just need to get there." I remember having some conversations, when, things started to pile up, and I had to kind of almost come clean as to what was going on, and I was like, I kept saying, yeah, but if I just need to get over this thing, I just need to get over this other thing. Oh, when this comes in, it'll be fine. And it was like, it's
yeah,
not. It's not fine, right? And that's a really common experience. And Profit First changed my business completely, like night and day. And this year I have like invested to be in the Run Like Clockwork mastermind because it is my goal to be able to do what you did, where I can go away for a month. Like I
mm,
want to go to India next year, and I want to turn off my phone from Vancouver airport to when I arrive back a month later, right? That's my goal. I don't know if it'll happen, but that's my goal. So
that's right. It's got to make it happen. Yeah.
right? Thank you so much again. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Okay, so right, yeah. So right now, the that one business I am starting to exit. So that's moving on without me, which is great because it's funny. Somebody said, "How do you feel about that?" And I'm like, it was a vehicle, right? It's a vehicle to get me from A to B for cash flow for my personal development, and it's done what it needs to do. I'm working with another chap. We have a partnership here in Chilliwack. We specialize in Microsoft Dynamics. So basically building up products for larger companies. And at the same time, I'm also building up my blog because I figured all these experiences that I've been through and developed, I'm not the only one. There are other business owners out there that are like, how the hell do I fix problem X? So
Right.
I started documenting my journey from the start. All the stuff I screwed up and messed up along the way is going to be there so that people can learn from it and hopefully not screw up.
That's awesome. So good. So good. Well, I'll let you get on with your day. Thank you for joining us and sharing your story and your tips. I really encourage everybody to check out Matt's blog. There's some really valuable information. Like we've just taken the little corner off of his story, like just really the highlights. There's so much more to learn from Matt. And should he ever decide to offer his services as a business coach, he would be absolutely ideal for somebody who, not just in the service industry or technology industry, just business as a whole. A great insight, great skill set. And I would highly recommend you have a conversation with him
Thank
if
you.
he ever decides to do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Also, that was a yes to the mess, everybody. I hope you guys all have a great weekend and check us out next week. I don't know who our guest is. I can't remember, but it'll be awesome, equally as awesome as Matt. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.